Hi everyone, I am Toyin Taiwo, the author of Dear Diary, The Truth Behind the Mask. Just had to do a little highlight here. Hey, I'm a debut author, so this is a big deal for me. And I'm so glad you are here. Thank you for joining me in this conversation. Today, we are talking about various themes like identity, achievement, womanhood, culture, diaspora, health, the body, marriage, and the expectations so many women carry over many years. Now, my book it centers on three characters, Nigerian and African women, including women in the diaspora. But please understand this is not just about these women. The main question that comes with this book is who am I outside of what people expect from me? And what happens when life does not follow the script I was given? And how do we rebuild after disappointment, judgment, illness, change, or migration? So I'm really pleased to be joined by Dr. Dorcas Roberts from Yelison Health, who brings a thoughtful clinical perspective to these themes, especially through her work with high achieving individuals. Dr. Dorcas, thank you for being here. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
So, Dr. Dorcas, you read my book, and I'm just curious to know your thoughts quickly before I dive into the questions. What's your thoughts? And don't worry, this is not a paid sponsorship. This doctor here is very honest.
Yes, Dear Diary is a book to read. Everyone should grab a copy. When I read it, I went through an emotional roller coaster. I connected with all the characters in different ways and on different levels. I was happy at certain points. I was chuckling and laughing because with jokes, you're very witty in the way that you write.
Thank you.
And then there were moments where I felt sad, I felt angry for some of the characters, I felt joy and hope. So all these different emotions were literally sitting with me as I was reading, and I couldn't put it down. I started it. I've got kids in the background doing things, saying, look, I'm in this zone. It was almost like an escape in the sense of getting into the inner world and the inner thoughts of these women who are wrestling with so many different concerns and issues, from achievement to health changes to marital concerns, fertility concerns. So being able to get into their world, their thoughts, and have that experience was so powerful.
Mhm.
And we're not gonna get into it with some tears.
Oh, yes. There were
We're not
tears.
gonna get into that, but yeah, really connected with the story. So thank you for sharing these stories for us to be able to have a moment to give ourselves permission to really honor our emotional experiences that we all navigate when we're going through changes in life. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for reading it. And I'm glad it touched you in the way it did. So, based on what I said earlier, this book, like you just hinted, has so many themes that is relatable. So, I want to begin with identity and achievement because this is something so many women wrestle with.
Mhm.
So, from your work as a clinical psychologist, what happens when a person builds her identity around achievement or appearance or their marriage, relationships, their career, or being seen as respectable?
The thing is, we don't really know ourselves to come to fully accept who we are, our strengths, our weaknesses, the struggles, our values, the things that make us tick. And we accept labels from other people and they become our identity. So, what a woman is based on her physical look, based on what she brings to the table. Can she cook? Can she clean? Can she do all these things? In terms of achievement, when we're getting a lot of validation and recognition from other people, we connect all these things. We're receiving messages from other people and we tie them into our sense of worth. So when all these things are stripped away, it's really hard to sit with the rawness of who you are outside of these labels, whether you're a mother, you're a parent, you're a wife, you're a sister. When all these labels are stripped away, then the
Mm.
person really struggles to really sit with who they are, their worth, their sense of self. So when identity is connected to your sense of achievement, you can find yourself wrestling with so many different emotions, from grief, anger, frustration, and you can find yourself doing things to feel that you're somebody who's worthy, like people pleasing, making sure that the people in your lives, they're getting what they want and agreeing to some of the things that they want at the expense of who you are. So when your worth is connected to your identity, attached to the things that you do, the things that you've been able to accomplish, the things that you are, it becomes very, very difficult to be able to sit with who you are outside of all these things, your sense of worth outside of all these things.
That keyword of people pleasing, I feel like a lot of people can relate with that. I feel like it's subconscious, isn't it? It's not like you're literally saying, "I'm going to say yes because I have to say yes." It's an
Mhm.
embedded thing, especially with there's a joke. Well, not would I call it a joke, but a common stereotype of if you're the eldest daughter, for example, or the only daughter, or even if you're a woman anyway, and you bear traits of responsibility, people rely on you. It's like you naturally just say yes to please everybody. Doesn't that skew boundaries? How does someone create boundaries based on the people pleasing aspect?
You mentioned that these things are in some ways ingrained. So you're receiving these messages, you're the eldest daughter, you're the responsible one, you're responsible for your younger siblings. You hear these messages often from parents, aunties, uncles, loved ones, friends, and you may naturally do certain things that align with you being such a caregiver. You're somebody who cares for other people and you always step in to solve problems. All these things are messages. You receive these messages over time, you start to internalize them and they become part of your identity. So then you find yourself people pleasing as a way to have this sense of worth. Well, if I'm the one who solves problems, I feel good when I'm able to solve everyone's problems. They tell me how great I am. I feel good. There's a reinforcement that comes with it. So then you find yourself doing it naturally. So it shapes your view, your internal view of yourself, your view of other people, your view of the world. And it can then become very difficult to set boundaries when maybe the people pleasing is no longer helpful or healthy or serving you. Now you're overextending, you are saying yes to everything that comes your way, and now you're overwhelmed, you're stretched thin, and you can't set those boundaries. So then it can lead to a lot of resentment because the communication isn't very proactive, isn't very assertive. You are saying yes, but internally you want to say no. So it can lead to a lot of emotional turmoil and no emotional frustration when the person struggles to set boundaries because for some time they've embodied these narratives and these messages from other people about who they are versus who they actually are.
Based on the characters in the book that you've read and what you just said about the people pleasing aspect, which character do you think it links to the definition of what you just mentioned, in your opinion? Curious.
For sure, yes. Eunice was a
Eunice
people
Shindar,
pleaser.
yeah.
Going to church and aunties and uncles are making comments and she's internally having a reaction to the comments you're saying about her body, her weight, but then saying, oh, thank you, auntie, thank you, uncle. On the surface, sort of actually articulating that, hey, the thing that you're saying or the comments that you're making, I don't like it, or I haven't found a partner yet, right? All these things, all these behaviors, and you have to think about it in the cultural context. From the culture that we're from, we have to give our elders respect, and part of giving elders respect means that you don't challenge their point of views, you don't assert yourself, because if you do, then that's disrespectful. So some of the cultural components can also make it difficult to set boundaries. It can make it difficult for you to be able to assert your identity in a way that's authentic to you without losing those social connections or the community that you're in.
I wanted to read a line based on what you said, if you don't mind. I could just a bit. So, based on what Dr. Dorcas Roberts was talking about, Eunice is at a family function in a church celebrating Easter. And well, I think some people, depending, they may recognize this as maybe social anxiety in a way, because she's very anxious to even enter the church.
Mm.
And this is her comments. She says, the comments started from the chapter Live the Question. The comments started timid as usual, the way our Nigerian aunties and uncles do it. They don't slap you with the spicy insult. Instead, they sprinkle it with Maggie Cube seasoning and expect you to chew it with a smile. You've added weight, oh, it will be good for pregnancy. Remember, your time is going. See your mates. My mates have become a measurement tool, a weapon of comparison. And what annoys me so much is the hypocrisy of it. I'll just stop there for now. So, what you were saying about the comments and the comparison also flows in there as well, which I think can also be linked to people pleasing in a way. So I just want to shift the conversation now to the other set of themes, which is body, health, and shame. So one of the most tender parts of Dare Diary is the way it looks at the body, health,
Mm.
and the way the shame that can come with that. So some of the women in the book are dealing with cancer, surgery, fertility concerns, and the fear of being judged. So from a psychological point of view, how can illness or changes in the body affect a woman's identity?
So the way we experience ourselves is through how we view who we are. Our identity is not just I'm a woman, I'm a black woman. It's also how do I see myself? And how I see myself can also be through the lens of how society tells me I should see myself. So things like body shape, body size, and some African cultures being having a bit of weight means that you are healthy, you are successful
You are a
in you
woman.
right.
Someone said that to me
You're
once. I gained weight. She was like, "Hey, you look like a woman." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." I think. Well, I don't know.
so all these messages, right, tell us how we are supposed to experience our body. Social media, the media itself tells us within the Eurocentric culture that we live in the US and the UK, thin size is the go-to, is the ideal body size and image, right? So when you're looking at yourself in the mirror and your view of yourself doesn't align with what society tells you should look like, that can affect how you experience yourself and your worth. You can then start attaching any changes, like with your growing hormonal changes, the weight is sitting in places that you don't want it to sit, you're extra bloated, or your skin is not looking as tight as it used to be. You're looking at all these things, and what you're seeing in the media is telling you, hey, your skin needs to be tight, you need to have this size of body shape and butt and boobs, right? So then you start making those comparisons, and when those comparisons are happening, they're internally changing your view of yourself, your thoughts about yourself, your self-worth, and even the emotional experiences that may come with. So now you may think of yourself, oh, I put on a bit of weight. Because I put on a bit of weight on my stomach area, now I'm not beautiful enough. And that I'm not beautiful enough then can lead to engaging in certain behaviors. Now you're covering yourself even more, you're wearing baggy clothes because you don't want other people to see those parts of yourself that you don't like, or you may even go on the other end of the spectrum, or overcompensating in the sense of, now I'm gonna, because I don't feel great, I'm gonna show all these other parts just so that I can get the validation. So it can really shape your internal interpretation of all these changes that are happening. Some of these changes may be very natural. After childbirth, your body is not going to look the same. Your body has stretched to some level and
Oh
now it's
no, I
trying.
disagree, girl. I snap back. I'm joking.
We see in the media
Yeah,
that people bounce back, and because you're
yeah.
not bouncing back to that same level, you may interpret that to mean that there's something wrong with you. You're not beautiful enough, you're not competent enough because your body doesn't fit a certain shape and certain size. So all these things can lead to a lot of shame, a lot of embarrassment, low self-esteem, because you're not experiencing yourself and accepting all these different changes in a way that is authentic to who you are. Your genetics play a role. Some
Mhm.
people are heavy because genetically their bodies are wired that way. You
Exactly.
can do all the diet changes and all the exercise and you still be your muscle tone, you will still be your bone mass. So being able to accept all these different parts of ourselves can really help us as we're going through all those changes in life.
And being able to accept that accept part is hard. It's difficult. And the character Temi Tope, right? I can reveal this because I can reveal this bit. She received a diagnosis, right? Breast cancer diagnosis. And that for her was, for anyone who receives that type of diagnosis, is life changing, right? But how she views her body was literally her selling point. She took pride in her body, and having to go through surgery was difficult for her. And when you read her diary, you will start to notice the transition, right, Dr. Dorcas? You notice from when she was like, yes, I'm every woman, to woe is me, to don't talk to me, to, you know what? I need to do something about this. I need to change this. I need to sort out my mentality. And there's a mantra that she wrote for herself. Well, her mom wrote for her. And she says in Worthy of Gratitude chapter, I am beautiful. I am unique. I am Temi Tope. Breathe out. Breasts do not define me as a woman. Breathe in. My character does. Breathe out. I have not been dethroned from my throne. Breathe in. My crown of hair will continue to flourish through this season. Breathe out. This is the mantra I say every morning. It takes a lot of faith to say this. I usually say it in front of the mirror to continue to convince myself. So this was Temi Tope's way of accepting her new body, despite the changes of her, which came with illness. Do you have any other recommendations that someone in a similar situation to her, or even Jemima Lawal, who faces fertility issues, what can they do to have a healthier perception of themselves?
Yeah, that piece was so great because what it was showing is the power of the stories that we tell ourselves, right? That because she was going through this major transition and season in her life, she needed to help herself redefine who she is by reminding herself of her worth. So the stories that we create with affirmations like this can help to rewire your thinking, can help to rewire your thought process, can help to rewire the messaging that you're now telling yourself. And sometimes you may be in a position to be able to give yourself some of that affirmation, and sometimes you may not be in the position to do so, and it can be helpful to get that affirmation from other people. So surrounding yourself with a community of people who know you, who truly love you and accept you, the fullness of who you are, so that they can remind you of your worth. So surrounding yourself with those people who can speak life into you over time. And this is not just a one and done thing. You do that over time repetitively. She was doing it almost like a daily routine, reminding herself to create that internal rewiring. So if you're not able to do that yourself, being around people who can pour into you in that way can help to rewire some of that internal messaging and stories that we create about ourselves when we go through very difficult seasons that shape our identity and shape how we experience who we are.
I have a follow-up question to that. What if someone does not have that type of community? So you mentioned about having the community. So luckily for Temi Tope, her family were very, nah, they don't leave her alone, which she didn't like because they didn't know how to support her. They tried their best, even though it was frustrating at times, but their help really did push her along those lines, right? But what if someone is alone and they are facing trouble similar to these characters? How do they get access to help?
Therapy is a really helpful tool, and it's a resource. It's a really helpful resource and tool to help manage some of these challenges if you don't have the community or you're not able to come up with some of these affirmations on your own. And it's not just developing affirmations full stop. It's really getting you to process all the different layers of emotions that come with the changes, the grief, the frustration, the anger. And as you're doing that, you're coming to terms with who you are by accepting your strengths, the weaknesses, the changes that you're going through. So finding a therapist who is trained, licensed,
Emphasize,
and have
please, on trained. Emphasize. That's
who
so
is
important.
trained and licensed and have the skills to be able to help you go through this really, really difficult season can be life changing, because then you're having that safe space to be able to sift through all these different difficult and uncomfortable emotions, and having that safe space to be able to try things. You may try some affirmations that may work for you, others that may not necessarily work for you, but that space helps you to be able to work through all these different layered emotions with grief. And it's not just the grief of the changes you're going through, there may be other grief. So with Temi Tope, her dad,
Yes.
hopefully I'm not spoiling things too much,
Yeah,
but she
look.
had other
Mhm.
other other losses that she was having to work through on top of the changes that her body was going through. So therapy can be a very great space to be able to work through all these different layered emotions as you're going through changes in whether it's career, body, health, as you're navigating all these other layered emotions if you don't have the support readily available to you in terms of a community.
Thank you so much for dropping those gems. I would like to conclude regarding the theme of culture, honoring your culture without losing yourself. Now, the three women in their diary, we are all Nigerians, but they all were raised differently. So Temi Tope is a British Nigerian. Eunice Chinda is a Nigerian American, and Jemima Lawal is a Nigerian. So born and brought up in Nigeria. And they all have similar upbringings. Yes, different experiences, but at the end of the day, you can see the cultural link there. And you mentioned earlier about in our culture, and because Dr. Dorcas, you're from the Ghanaian heritage, right? So, and I'm from the Nigerian heritage. And I think anyone else who's from a similar heritage to ours or just can understand this. How can women honor their culture, their family, their faith, or their community without losing themselves in it? We mentioned about boundaries. I know that even saying no to some people is saying, like, it's like you cursing them out. The biggest insult, and it can cause a ripple effect. And some people do not want to face that ripple effect. What's your opinion on this?
We don't come into this world in a vacuum. We come from a place, a family, a community. So our culture plays a huge role in shaping our identity. And I'll speak from the West African culture, the Ghanaian culture in particular, that family is very important. Respecting elders, respect is very important. Honoring your elders is very important. Honoring family, honoring the community is very important. So that often tends to take more of the center stage over your own personal needs. So if you are trying to do what you want, it's oftentimes seen as disrespectful when you don't care about everyone else, you just care about your needs. It can be very difficult to set those boundaries in those kind of contexts. And I think what makes it hard is not truly understanding who you are makes it hard to be able to create some of that balance. Because if you understand what your values are, if you understand the cultural component, then it's a bit easier to set boundaries. And boundaries aren't, we oftentimes see as a huge wall that has to be set up and keep people out and keeping yourself in. But it's actually a way of trying to create room for those two things, the community and the culture and your needs also to be met. And often we live in a very autopilot mode where we're taking on other people's expectations of us, the culture. Within the Ghanaian culture, a young woman, you get to a certain age, you're going to get married, you got to have kids, you have to have this. And career wise, you have to have these kind of jobs, a doctor, a lawyer, all these things. And other careers and other needs aren't necessarily honored in that same way. But when you truly understand who you're, when you had the time to really sit with yourself, understand your worth outside of all these things, then it makes it a bit easier to articulate your needs, assert your needs within the culture. So honoring the culture, hey, within our culture, community is very important. Honoring our elders is very important. How can I do
Yes.
that and still communicate to my parents or my family that, hey, I want to pursue this career path, even though that's not what you want for me? So, being able to really understand your needs, your values can help you to be able to honor your culture without losing yourself. Because when we continue to operate in that autopilot mode and we're taking on what other people want of us, you live a life and then you wake up one day and you're not happy with the life that you're living because you're living someone else's life. You're not living the life that had been designed for you. You're not living out your purpose. You're living by someone else's script. And then you're filled with a lot of regret and resentment for the very people that you were trying to live your life for. Now you're resenting them for doing that thing. So taking the time to get to know yourself, get to know who you are, get to know your strengths, your values, and accepting all that can help you to be able to assert your needs and communicate with respect and honoring your culture as well as honoring your needs.
I love that. Thank you so much because I just wanted to read a bit from Eunice Chinda about getting to that point where you realize, what was I doing? And in a book, she says in page 38, she's referring to her parents. She says that because when you're raised by the migrant generation, you don't just carry your parents' dreams, you carry their expectations like a weight you can't shake off. Their sacrifices become your checklist. So if you're wondering where, well, I can't speak for everybody, but if you're wondering where some of your mindset comes from, look back to the people who raised you, look back to the
Mhm.
community who influenced you. And then she continues to say, I stare at my distorted vision board in the middle of the night and I realize something that makes me laugh and want to cry at the same time. This vision board ain't even mine. It's
Mhm.
stitched together for my parents' sacrifice and my auntie's whispers and society's checklist. So I'm just going to pause there with
Yeah,
that.
that's a great point because now you're taking everybody's contribution and ideas. Oh, you should do this. I think you should do this. You should do this job, or you travel. You're taking on everyone's, and now you've carved this image and this roadmap that doesn't align in some ways with what would be quite meaningful for you. And you'd spend a lot of time and energy doing what everybody wants and trying to appease everyone, trying to make sure the family are honored. But then it's not coming from a place of authenticity. It's all
Mm.
very surface level, right? That you don't want to upset folks, therefore you are just agreeing to what they want of you. So you're taking the time to really recognize that this roadmap that I'm pursuing, do I really want to be for a while? I wanted to be a lawyer. I
Did
had
you?
convinced myself, yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because growing up in Ghana, either you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, engineer. So I science was not really my thing back in high school. So I was like, I enjoy reading, I enjoy the arts, so I want to be a lawyer.
Hmm.
So I was like with JSS, SS, that was my path until when I moved to the UK, actually tried to do a class at Francis Barsley, sixth form, and during my year, they didn't offer that law course.
Oh,
But I'm still gonna try. I went into Nottingham and I still took a law course. I sat in
wow.
that law class. I was so
You
committed,
were very
even though
committed.
even though I wanted to do psychology, I was like, let me just in case maybe I can switch things. I took that law class. Oh my gosh. I was like, no, what is this? No, what is this? No,
It's not for
I don't,
you.
I'm not feeling it's not for me.
Hmm.
It's not for me. And having to realize at that point, I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad that I'm actually pursuing this other thing that I really enjoy, psychology. And now I know for sure that this is not the path that I want to pursue. But imagine if I had done all that, spent all the years trying to be a lawyer because that's what the culture expects of me as to be successful. You have to do one of these jobs, then I would have lived a life of regret. I wouldn't be where I am now. So again, like, looking back and taking the time to really reflect on like why am I pursuing this path? Is it really for me, or is it what I have been told I need to do in order to be successful, in order to have achievement, in order to make it, that this is what it has to look like.
Wow, I didn't know that about you. That's new. Lawyer. I
That
can
was a
actually
dream at
imagine
some
you
point.
doing that. I can imagine you doing that. I wanted to be a psychologist. So, Dr. Dorcas, thank you so much for your time. I feel like I can just dig in deeper in this book with you because you have left so many nuggets and so many really good points and key takeaways. Speaking of takeaways, do you have one takeaway that you would like to share? We spoke about so many themes. Is there only one
One
takeaway?
takeaway. The one takeaway would be take the time as you're pursuing success, take the time to get to know you so that you can accept you in all the different seasons that you're going to go through. There will be some highs, there'll be some lows, but taking the time to really embrace yourself in your fullness can help you to be able to navigate all those emotional changes as you go through all the changes in life that we're all going to experience at some point.
Mhm.
Thank you for the opportunity to
Yeah.
be here and discuss this wonderful book with you, and talk about these really important topics and conversations that oftentimes aren't shared or brought to light. So thank you for the opportunity to be
Oh,
here today.
you're welcome. This conversation speaks so deeply to the heart of their diary, the truth behind the mask, and all these women navigating all these things that we all navigate: identity, expectation, culture, faith, love, health, including our body
Mm-hmm.
image, relationships like marriage, and the parts of themselves they are still trying to understand. So please get your
Mm-hmm.
earbud. If this
Yes.
conversation connected with you, this book, Dear Diary, The Truth Behind the Mask, is available now through the link in my bio. And if you would like to learn more about Dr. Dorcas Roberts and her really great work, you can visit Yelison Health. Can you tell them your website, please, Dr. Dorcas?
Yes. So we do psychological assessments. We also offer therapy and some of the assessments addressing things like attention problems, so ADHD, autism, any depression, anxiety. And you can learn more about our services at www.yelison.com. Schedule an initial consultation to get the process going if you're looking to get evaluated or you're looking for therapy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And I hope this conversation stays with you. If it has, please leave a comment, send me a DM, or directly get in contact with Dr. Dorcas Roberts if you'd like to ask her any questions or you're curious about any other things as well. Goodbye.
Bye for now.
Bye.